Welcome back to the Mountain Man Medical YouTube channel. Thanks for hanging out. Today we're talking about an unpopular opinion that I have. It really surprised me when I started this YouTube channel that there are a lot of tourniquet fanboys out there. I had no idea. There are people who refuse to use the cat tourniquet. And there are people out there who refuse to use the SOF-T Wide. They're both fantastic tourniquets. I've used them before. I've seen them actually save lives, so I know that they work. So it really confuses me when you have people that completely commit to one piece of gear instead of another. Every piece of equipment has its own special place where it's more useful and it's better, and different situations that it shines in, right? There's no piece of gear out there that is able to handle every situation that you're going to come up against as a first responder to a medical emergency. Well, except this one thing. Hang out, we're going to talk about that next. So when I was in the military, I didn't get the chance to pick and choose what medical gear I used. I was just given the gear and they said, here you go, make that work. If I had brought in my own medical equipment that I preferred, that would have been very against the rules. It would have been against standard operating procedures, and that is always strictly forbidden. So you're not allowed to do that. So I didn't get the chance to choose. They just gave me the stuff and I said, thanks, this is probably the best. And it was, you know, cat tourniquets and soft teas. And I was able to make a big difference with those. So they work, I know that they do. But now that I've been out of the military for a little while and I've been into the civilian world, I get a chance to kind of see the juxtaposition between the two cultures, right? The comparison between the military and the civilian world, it's different. There's different things that apply, and not everything that the military does is going to apply to you as a civilian. Now, we do want to pay attention to what the military is doing. They are learning a lot of good stuff. They have so much opportunity to treat and understand trauma that they are able to collect all that data, run their tests and research and experiments, and find out what the best possible way for keeping people alive is. That's why we know that tourniquets are so successful, because the overwhelming numbers that are coming to us that prove that tourniquets are so successful is because of the military. Civilians don't have to contend with the same types of obstacles that the military has to deal with. They don't have to sit on the casualty for 6, 7, 8 hours for the most part. Usually they're into the ER quickly. You don't have to worry about that. EMS is rolling up to you. You got law enforcement coming in with tourniquets, and it's not that big a deal. But in the military, things are different. You might have to apply a tourniquet and then drag that casualty to a safer location. You might have to drag him over a wall. You might have to carry him to the helicopter so that he can get airlifted out. So there's a good chance of that tourniquet coming loose and popping off. So it's important to understand that the military and the civilian world are different places. There's different problems, there's different solutions, and there's different gear that might work better for us. And just because a certain product isn't vetted or isn't approved by the SWAT-T committee, then that doesn't mean that it doesn't have value to us. And I think that this particular tourniquet has an extensive value to you and can really shore up your weaknesses in your combat medical loadout, or just your regular loadout. All right, so soft teas and cat tourniquets work really well to control bleeding, but they only work really well to control bleeding on your arms and legs. That leaves a significant amount of your body that you don't have medical equipment for. So if you can only carry one thing, say you just want to slip something into a pocket to have a little extra peace of mind, you're going to go to a concert, and you know, weird stuff happens at concerts, as we know from the Las Vegas event a couple of years ago. You know, maybe something weird would happen, and I would like to have a little extra backup in case I can, you know, help somebody, or I get hit, or my wife gets hit. I can take care of her. So what is that one thing? And I was thinking about the different tourniquets, and I've tried carrying the SOF-T Wide and a cat tourniquet in my pocket, but they're just too awkwardly shaped to be carried efficiently, and it's uncomfortable. You try to cram a cat tourniquet into your pocket, and you can do it, but I don't know, it was just very annoying to me. I've got a lot of stuff in my pockets already, and taking up that extra space, it's frustrating. I don't like it. So I was looking for other solutions, and I realized I had a great solution right there. In my pocket right now, I have what I think is the best piece of medical equipment that you can carry, and that is the SWAT Tea. This is basically just a large rubber workout band. What I like about it is that it's more evenly shaped and less awkwardly shaped than the CAT and the SOF-T Wide. So here I've got a training CAT tourniquet, SOF-T Wide, and here is the SWAT tourniquet. You can kind of see that they have a similar length, but the main problem is the thickness. This is a nice, thin, flat, square package. It slips so nice into your front pocket. You don't even know that it's there, but trying to get these windlass clips to get down into a pocket, or this thing coming unraveled in your pocket and getting all tangled up, not the best carry methods if you're going to be wearing something in a pocket. So this will pack very nicely. You can even get multiples of these into your trauma kits much more easily than you can a CAT tourniquet. So one of the things that I like to do is run 1-2 CAT tourniquets in my trauma kit that I use for all occasions, and then on top of that running maybe 2 or 3 of these in my trauma kit as redundancy. Whenever you're in a bad situation and you have a limited amount of gear that you can carry or do anything with, redundancy is always a good thing. If the gear that you're using fails for some reason, you want to have a backup. Or if you have more injuries than you can handle with the number of tourniquets that you have available, it's nice to have backups. And what's really great about this SWAT Tea is not only does it work to control bleeding on your arms and legs, but you can use it for a bunch of other stuff as well. The SWAT Tea is like its own trauma kit in just this one little package. It's almost like you've got an entire trauma kit because you can treat so many different types of wounds. So let's talk a little bit about what types of things that you can do with this. And to do that, I'm going to bring out this tourniquet, which is already out of the packaging. So what we have here, and this one's just rolled up, the other one is flat packed, but I've taken it out of the packaging for demonstrative purposes. And this is what it is. It's just a stretchy band. It just wraps around your limb, nice and tight. You tuck it under. SWAT-T is an acronym. It stands for Stretch, Wrap, and Tuck Tourniquet. So that's why they call it that, and it is very effective for controlling bleeding. One of the things that you'll notice is how wide this band is. This is a 4-inch band, I believe, and what it does is it puts greater pressure area over a larger surface area. And that's beneficial because you get better occlusion of the artery, and you are also lessening the amount of tourniquet pain that the casualty will have. You're not going to get around tourniquet pain. That's just something that the casualty is going to have to deal with, and it is very uncomfortable. I've had casualties complain more about the tourniquets than the leg they just had blown off. So it's pretty surprising how much pain can come from one of these tourniquets. So we don't want to let that casualty talk us into releasing the tourniquet or loosening the tourniquet so that it's more comfortable. They're just going to bleed out. So we need to make sure that we're encouraging them to leave that tourniquet in place until EMS can get on station and whisk them away to the hospital. But this nice, wide, stretchy band puts more pressure over a greater surface area and makes it a little more comfortable. It's not quite as uncomfortable as the CAT or the SOF-T Wide. So that is an added benefit as well. Additionally, you can use this as a pressure dressing. If I've got a wound on my neck, I can wrap this around, come all the way across, and pull that packed gauze in my neck wound nice and tight down in. And I'll just wrap this around a couple of times on the casualty and get that bleeding controlled. Use this as a pressure dressing for junctional wounds. You cannot do that with a CAT tourniquet or SOF-T Wide. So that's 2 things that this can do. That takes care of 2 different pieces of gear that you're going to be carrying in your trauma kit, a tourniquet and a pressure dressing. The other thing that you can use this for is tying it into a loop, as I will show you now. Just put a little quick knot in it, and you're working on somebody in with a fracture. They've got a fractured arm or a messed up elbow or a wrist or whatever the case. Just tie a little knot in it, loop it over their head, and position it as a sling. Easy. Also, what you can do is use this to wrap sticks or a board or something like that as a makeshift splint. So if you have lower limb fractures or something like that and you need to get that limb splinted up to prevent further injuries, then this is a good way of keeping that splinting material in place and doing its job. So that's another 2 pieces of gear, useful for splints and pressure dressings. So now we're sitting at 4 separate pieces of gear that this is adding redundancy to. And the last thing that this is good for is that you can use this as a chest seal. So if somebody has penetrating trauma to the chest, you are trying to prevent a tension pneumothorax and keep that casualty alive until they can get to the hospital. And maybe you don't have chest seals on you, or maybe you already use them up on the other wounds on him. Maybe he's got multiple wounds and you only have enough stuff in your trauma kit to take care of 1 entrance and 1 exit. But he's got more than that. And you don't run out of gear. So what are you gonna do? You can use your SWAT-T as an occlusive dressing. It's rubber, so it's not permeable. So it's gonna prevent air from entering and exiting from the chest cavity. Well, we want it to exit, but we don't want it to enter. So this will do a good job of preventing that tension pneumothorax, because all we need to really do is just place it over the wound and wrap this a couple of times or once around the casualty to keep it in place. Now, you don't want to wrap it too tightly. If you wrap it too tightly, the chest's ability to naturally expand and contract as the person breathes, it's going to be hampered. They're not going to be able to do it. If you wrap this on there really tight, it's going to constrict their chest wall, and you don't want to restrict their breathing. They already have breathing problems. They got shot in the lung. So we want to be able to, take care of that without restricting their breathing. So make sure that you're not tying it down too tight. But beyond that, this is a great way to take care of a penetrating chest wall trauma. So that is another piece of kit that we are adding redundancy to just by packing one of these SWAT tees. You pack a couple extra, even better. A lot of people say that it's bad for me to talk about the SWAT T because it's not approved by the TCCC committee. And it's ridiculous because the military is different from the civilian world. What applies to them doesn't necessarily apply to us. It's important to understand what's going on there and to think about whether or not that applies to us, because there's very valuable information out there. But ultimately, we need to make sure that we can think critically about this and decide for ourselves whether or not this is a good piece of kit or not. And the military is still using this. Top tier combat units are running the SWAT-T on a regular basis. This is a pretty popular item for people going undercover, doing the clandestine operations. They want to blend in with the local population. They don't want to stand out too much because they're carrying a whole bunch of stuff. So they want a little trauma kit. They want to be able to take care of multiple big things, but they don't have the space or the room to be able to carry it. So a lot of the guys, they're carrying the SWAT-Ts. Just because it's not officially approved by the TCCC committee doesn't mean that this doesn't have its validation. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have its place. And in my opinion, I think it's an extremely important piece of gear that can really boost the resources that you have available to you in a very bad situation. So this is a great piece of kit in my opinion. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for hanging out and checking out this video on the SWAT-T. I really appreciate you sticking it out to the end. And I want to say that I really appreciate everybody commenting and subscribing to the channel. Things have been really popping off lately. We've been growing pretty steadily. And I just have so many people down there that I see over and over again commenting and really adding to the community. And I love it. I love seeing these are very experienced people. We got LE medics and EMTs and paramedics and all these different types of people that are lending their wisdom to all of this stuff. And I think that's extremely valuable. I don't know everything. I mean, I try to know everything, but I don't. And a lot of times they bring a different perspective from their experiences, and that's extremely valuable. So I appreciate everybody that's commenting on these videos. It helps me out a ton. It helps our community to grow. I would love to have this community of medically trained first responders, civilians who are just interested in helping people out and protecting themselves with just basic medical skills and carrying simple items that can do a lot of good for a lot of people. So thanks again. I appreciate all of you. If you liked this video, hit the like and subscribe button. If you learned anything, head over to the mountainmanmedical.com website and check out our Yellowstone and Wind River trauma kits. We also sell the SWAT-T Wide. Pick yourself up a couple, add them into your kit. Be ready for whatever the mountain throws at you. I'll catch you guys in the next one.